of work. My name is Lakon and this is Ade. And as you can see, we have a special guest with us. But before we get there, I'm going to tell you who our special guest is. So, Olivia is a creative educator dedicated to inspiring personal and professional growth with others with a natural curiosity and an inquisitive nature. As you can tell, I'm reading the prompt really, really well, and I'm not an AI generated individual. So, you should all be happy about that. But more so, she's a firm believer in pouring from an overflow that she creates opportunities and spaces to share knowledge, insights, and encouragement. Olivia is going to show us today the power of AI and prompting. So I'm going to let Olivia give her spiel because her spiel will be better than mine. But over to you, Olivia. Tell us, who are you? What do you do?
So I've been doing a few things over the years. Started off as a private tutor from when I finished my A levels because I wanted to help young people with their roots through education, their journey through education, but also confidence building and raising their aspirations of self. And then obviously I went to university, did an international business and Spanish degree. I did a year work placement in Mexico City. So I worked in a French company, but they had Latin American clients. So I didn't need to speak French, thankfully. But as long as I could speak English and Spanish, it was fine. And then when I came back, I did my final year of university, graduated, and then went into a 6-month corporate governance course, which then had an exam. And then from there, which is around now 2017, so I've jumped about 5 years. But in 2017 is when I then started to join the strategic bodies of schools to really understand how I can support current and future generations at a strategic level and en masse. So I've been doing that, so being a school governor in one setting or another over the last 7 years or so. And right now, I have a part-time job in an education charity that supports the governance sector, and I'm in the marketing and communications team as the brand and digital marketing manager. I'm also a podcaster, so I'm the creator and host of the Governance Podcast, because anyone who doesn't know about school governance, education governance, or anyone who does know, knows that you only really need to be 18. You don't need to have prior experience or prior training in order to volunteer as a school governor. But training helps, as always, like being able to know what kind of questions to ask or how to tackle papers or what to focus on when you visit schools, knowing that you're not Ofsted, but you still need to have that kind of oversight in terms of how the school's being run, knowing the difference between being operational and strategic, all that kind of stuff. So the podcast is a way of bringing governance to a place where people already exist, making it more accessible, more visible. Governance isn't sexy to a lot of people and it's not known to a lot of people. But I would like to think that I have a really good personality, something that people can gravitate towards. So I bring my personality to governance and I bring governance to everyday people so that it is something that they can relate to and then seek more understanding of and hopefully be inspired to join. So that's a bit of me in a nutshell.
Super. So where does the AI and prompting come in? Because I know the people want to know.
Yes. So in terms of AI and prompting, this was definitely explorative for me because a few months ago, I decided that I wanted to creatively write after many years of not thinking that I could creatively write. Even back at school, I didn't think that I had a creative bone in me. I always saw other people who were artists who could paint or could draw or could write stories. Whereas because I didn't see myself in any of those kind of categories, I didn't think I could. But then having some time with myself, I was like, okay, Olivia, is this really true? When you think about how you text people and you think about how you write captions on social media, you write a whole lot. You're full of a lot of words. You've always been a confident speaker, so you can clearly produce ideas and communicate them to people. So it's just how you get those points down. Now, my brain does a lot in a short space of time. And so AI actually helps me to compute all those ideas, to create some structure around those ideas, because it's kind of nice to know that I can just come up with a list of bullet points, share it with AI, and then it formulates those bullet points in a way that is then useful in whatever way that I want to use it. So I've been using AI a lot recently, every day, every day, to be able to write stories. So to create fictional characters and write stories using the information I have from my years of experience across different sectors. And I think that's really key when you come to use AI. Come with a base, come with a foundation, come with knowledge, come with something, because then that is you planting the seed. What AI does is, in my opinion, from my experience, is accelerate the journey, the process. So you go from having to spend hours, days, weeks, months, years trying to develop something to seconds, minutes, depending on how you craft your prompts. And so that's what I've been able to do. Of almost, well, it's still growing, but I'm building a whole new world in the fictional space for the fictional series that I'm writing. And that has allowed me to build characters, main characters, secondary characters, supportive characters, storylines, story arcs, all these different elements using AI in a very dynamic way.
Excellent. So obviously I'm very excited because you're about to enter the lion's den.
Let me help you. Because obviously there was some behind the scenes stuff that we discussed yesterday, and I know you want to jump into the lion's den. And so with the unpacking, and we spoke about this yesterday, and I just wanted to unpack this piece. Remember I said a comment around like AI can 10x things, and if you put rubbish in, it will 10x the rubbish. But if you put in some good stuff, it'll 10x it, right, in a good way. And so obviously I just wanted to give that context to say that a few months ago you weren't using it, right? And now you're using it multiple times a day to the point where you've now invested in the actual premium version, right? So we're going to get into it, as Lekon has said, but I just want people to understand that we've gone from 0 to 100 in just a couple of months.
100%.
Yeah, like 100.
So
I just add that context.
But I also think the important thing also that you said was you just brought it into your world. I think a lot of hesitation for people is that they don't know how to use it. So because, for example, no one at work maybe uses it, no one in their family uses it, there's a hesitation to say, but what does it really mean for me? And I think the way you've explained it, how you've done it, is quite effective, because essentially you had a problem and you now use it to try and see if it could solve the problem. No guarantees that it would, but now you've obviously found benefit in the last 3 months to do that, which is great. Obviously, in terms of what I really wanted to say, so I watched this really cool thing this morning, from the Harvard Business School, School of Engineering, and something else, I forgot what it's called, Applied Sciences, and they were talking about intellectual property and AI. So the reason why I mention it is because if you're doing creative writing, the question at the moment, which was coming out, is one, the people in the IP world have no idea how what would happen in terms of if someone now uses AI to produce a book, in terms of intellectual property and creating stuff. So from your perspective, as you're creating, some may say, and again, this is not me, I'm just saying what the people are saying, even though the people, we can't see them, would be, are you really making your own book if you are using AI to support it? Question.
Yes. It's a straightforward answer because one, I read everything. So I don't just take the first response that AI gives me. So I'm constantly refining and scrutinizing and examining what I'm creating. And two, it will only give me as an authentic or original answer based on what I put in. So how I see it is like the more I give it, and the more I give it that comes from, that self-generated, that comes from my own thoughts, my own experiences, my own knowledge, my own interest, is it will then shape the characters that I create. If I speak in characters, it'll probably be a bit easier. Like to create a person, it has to feed from something. So yes, I could, and this is some of the things that I've prepared. The difference between giving a very basic instruction and then the difference it can make when you add one little detail, when you just change a word or you change a phrasing. So for example, I think I can kind of pivot towards the demo, but I can do a transition. So one of the techniques that I employ for a fictional character creation is, because I know my brain, the way my brain works, I don't know if a lot of brains out there work like this, but I'm going to call myself a bit of a genius.
Yes!
I have a really
Bring yourself to the table. I love it.
I have a really solid memory. So once I experience something, watch something, read something, hear something, and I understand it, it's rare for my brain to forget it or to like completely lose it. So it's just needing a trigger to awaken it. So I've read a lot over the years. I was always an avid reader when I was younger, reading stories, read a lot more nonfiction as I got older, but still read novels, etc. I watch series, I study characters. I'm the kind of person who will watch a scene 3-4 times in the same setting until I've got it. Like it just makes sense. So I don't just sit, I don't passively watch anything. I don't passively read anything. I don't passively listen to anything. And I watch things with subtitles so that if there's something going on in the background, and I can think of scenes in TV series where this has happened, where the camera wants you to focus on those who are directly in shot, but I will almost put myself in the scene to take myself to the environment. It's like, okay, what other textures are going on? So because I know my brain does that, when I'm creating a character, I will triangulate. So I will pick, for example, pick a character from a book I've read, pick a character from a film I've watched, pick a character from a TV series, and use those 3 different characters to triangulate the character I want to create. So then it is original because it's based on who I've picked and the additional stuff I've put in to the prompt in order to get my brand new character. So no one could tell me that that character is a replica of someone that exists.
So I've got to say something, and it may sound like banter. So when you release your book, I'm assuming you're going to tell your publisher, I did this book all on my own. This is original ideas. But then do you have to give a shout out to Gemini or ChatGPT when you do your acknowledgements at the end?
Well, the thing is, what I feel like Chat does is I have absolutely no shame in saying that AI has helped me, because it would have helped me. But the ideas, the concept, the world has come from me. Like Chat can only produce what I tell it to. So it is still me. It's just what Chat has done. I thought of it this morning in terms of something I always think in analogies to make it real. So growing up, I don't know how true this statement is as of today, but I know growing up, I was a thrill seeker. So I liked theme parks. I love theme parks. I love going on roller coasters, the fastest ride, the one with all the loops, everything. And so I outgrew what's it called, Drayton Manor very quickly. Then I outgrew Alton Towers very quickly. Then I was like, I want to go to Thorpe Park. That's bigger rides. You know, you've got to travel further from Birmingham in order to get there, because Drayton Manor is like down the road once you get older and you realize it isn't that far. And then I'm thinking, okay, where can I go next? So obviously at some point I'd love to go experience Six Flags, you know, but then that's going overseas in order to experience that. And so when you go to a theme park, anyone who's familiar with theme parks, whether they've been or not, but just familiar, there's a fast track line, right? And a standard line. So fast track is just so that you can kind of skip past the hours of waiting, and especially for popular rides, fast rides, the ones that people want to go to. So throughout the years, obviously, most of the time you go by standard because fast track costs money. So sometimes you gotta rinse out at your what you can afford level before you can add in that extra layer. So I'm used to being in the standard queues. And throughout the years, you learn who do you want to go to theme parks with, because if you're going to be standing in a queue for 2 hours, you want to make sure you're in the right company, who's got jokes, who's going to have good conversation, who's got good energy, is the weather decent? You know, there's all these factors. Obviously, the more mature you become when you go to theme parks, you start to get strategic about how you plan your day and who you go with. So I started to think about, okay, I know how I like to ride when I'm in a theme park. I don't like to waste time. I like to hit the best rides at the top end of the day, not be the first one on the track, because, you know, let other people do that. Go around a few times, let the metal get used to all the tracks and everything. But I want to be still at the top end of the day so that if I want to go on those rides again, I can. So I have no problem with standard queue because I know who I'm going with. I know those experiences, the conversations, the banter, everything is going to be live. But I also need to recognize that I need to go in a minimum of a group of 4, because as long as I've got one person who wants to go with me, I also know I don't want anyone to be on their own. So I can't go as a 3 and one person rides like me and the other person's like, I don't know, I want to go on the slow rides. I don't really want to walk around. I want to get food and everything. If you want to get food, you're not my kind of rider, because I'm not focused on food. I'm hitting those top 3, 4 popular rides first before I eat, because everyone knows you don't eat and then go on a roller coaster. It's all that. So you go into the theme park to hit the best rides. At least that's how I ride. So the last couple of times I've gone to Thorpe Park, I've gone with my brother, and we've probably been in a group of 4, 5, 6 people. But me and my brother ride the same. He's a few years younger than me, so let's say I trained him. But we ride the same. We go on fast things. We don't mind being in a queue, but we're very strategic when we hit the park. But we make sure that whoever doesn't want to go on the fast rides has someone else to be safe with, because it gets crowded. So I don't need to go down the fast track because I've created the conditions that work for me in order to do the standard queue. However, say it's to midday and we know the queue starts to pick up, they get longer and stuff. And either there's a ride I haven't been on yet that I really want to go on, or there's a ride I have been on, but I want to go on again, but I don't necessarily want to wait the same amount of time. I can now invest in fast track because it makes sense. What you don't want to do is pay for fast track for a ride that isn't popular, because you may as well just go down the standard queue. Then you've wasted your money and you're not really getting a return on your investment.
So is that your AI?
AI, exactly. So it's choosing to go down fast track. But I only know to go down fast track because of the information I have in my head. Meaning I know the ride is popular. I know the average queue time. I know what the opportunity cost is for not being in the standard queue. Because in the standard queue, I'll get to have the conversations, the banters, the joke. Fast track, you'll just focus on getting on and off the ride. And so I still think, based on what the analogy I'm using, is that I've entered that park with intention. I've entered that park with a strategy. I've entered that park with a knowledge base because I know after years of experience. That's all AI does. It gives you more choice. It gives you more options. It allows you to consider, okay, do I need to move fast right now, or can I move slower? That's how I use AI.
And I think this is really good. And I feel like by saying some of the things you said, you've opened a lot of can of worms, which is not what today's session is about. So we're going to have to come back and go. There's about 4 questions that I would like to ask, but I know it's going to take time. So let's see this demo then and show. And this, and obviously, because I think it'll be a fantastic conversation to get someone on who's anti what you believe regarding because it's not everyone that believes it. Some people say, oh no, you're cheating. But actually, the way you articulate it actually is very clear that it's your work. And also, which is a bigger argument, which is why I said it'll be another session, is in the AI generation of what we have available to us today, actually, because we're only having a narrow form of AI, like you said, you're only going to get back what you put in. So in terms of the ability for when we're talking about the future of work and people losing their jobs, this form of AI can't take someone's job unless you know if you're really good at prompting. And not organizations are going to be really savvy with that. But it's another conversation for another day. So I'm going to so we're going to see your screen. And then we're going to see,
just let you know, because it's a lovely segue. I'm going to leave you guys, but obviously the demo is the next thing, which is the most exciting thing, guys. And obviously I really want you to tackle it and show all the good stuff. And then, so please have fun with it.
Okay.
We will. See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Here we go.
So so you can see my screen. So what I've done is preloaded into the chat before I hit enter what I'm going to do. So earlier I talked about how I triangulate my characters and where I draw sources from. So
just before you go, just to give people the backdrop. So the goal for you now is, I want to write a book about this X subject, and I now want to create the characters for this book based on what's in my head. So therefore I'm now asking ChatGPT to support me with this. So now, just so people know the context, because some people might just be jumping on. Go ahead.
Of course. Thank you for the context. I always love context. So this is a completely blank chat. So there's no prior context or bias or influence that can incorporate here. And so this is what I mean by choice. Like sometimes I will create a brand new chat so that the first thing I put in that chat, or the first new thing I put in that chat, is all that chat has to deal with or to process. Whereas if you've previously used the chat, and then you come back 2 days later and go into that same chat and ask a follow-up question, it will pull some bias and influence from previous things that you've discussed or
right. So you need to stop there, because not everyone knows this. So
right.
Because for example, because what I normally do is I have my chat and my Gemini open all the time.
Okay.
So for example, I noticed that when I was typing, going back to talk about the same subject matter, the context was already there, so it was much slicker, much more to the subject that I was trying to articulate. Whereas when I was trying to do something new, it was talking about a different context, and I was like, and because I wasn't as explicit with the context, it now started referring to stuff that wasn't in context. So that's really important, guys, that when you're doing your prompt, if your subject matter is changing, then you need a brand new chat. But the benefit is that you can obviously tap into these old chats because it logs it on the left-hand side of the screen. Continue.
Yeah. Right. So I'm starting a brand new chat just so that it's completely raw. So you'll see what I would get if I started again. So the first thing I do is I tell chat who it is. Like I need to create a persona. I need chat to know who it is so that I am pulling the best expertise. So that's why my opening line says, "You're an expert analyst and respected critic of creative writing in fictional book series, film, and TV series." Because if I don't put that context, if I don't tell chat who it is, it could be really unfiltered or lacking consideration of the space that I'm trying to enter. So
and quick one about that. Would it also benefit, because you've now explicitly said you're an expert in, do you think it would, and this is just me thinking based on what I'm hearing you say, if you know, like you can add the names of people, so like someone that's like this critic or this TV, so do you think that would help what you would do, or do you think it will hinder it, make it too much like?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve, because I know some people will use prompts that say write in the style of this person.
Yeah.
Think of like TV series writers like Shonda Rhimes and
Shonda
Landon. She's got Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder and Grey's Anatomy. So if you were trying to be like Shonda, dare I say, but I feel like be her, then you could put that in. But then that goes back to your original question, or one of your earlier questions, about still wanting to be original, still wanting to be authentic.
Exactly.
So force a persona on them through a name and a profile that already exists, then it allows you to become the persona that you're creating or asking chat. I almost use chat as like an out-of-body experience. So it's almost like an opportunity for me to say, if I was having a conversation with myself and say it's my future self, what would I want my future self to know? Who is my future self? What characteristics do they have? Okay, let me bring it into the present, create that persona first. So then it's all me. It's almost like the past me, my knowledge, my context, the present me using AI, and the future me drawing on that years of experience or whatever it is, all in one moment. So different timelines.
Brilliant.
So,
cool. So we're with you. So let's see what it gives us now.
Yeah, so I'm going to hit enter. So the other part of this says, provide a character description and development using 5 bullet points. So this is me being very specific, because otherwise chat can give you a lot or not enough. So 5 bullet points. And then I've pulled a character from a film. So I don't know if you've watched the film Inception, but the character Saito from Inception, then Harvey Specter from Suits, and Edward Lewis from the film Pretty Woman. Now, the reason why I mention these things is because there is also the reason why I believe in originality is because there is context that I have in my head that I haven't necessarily put in chat yet, and people wouldn't know if they didn't speak to me, because I know what the end goal is. I know what kind of character I want. And because I know what the end goal is, what my vision is, it allows me to then draw on inspiration that is going to lead me to that destination. So
Cool.
what
Let's see what it gives us.
using is 5 bullet points for each of the 3 characters to create that triangulation from who I'm going to draw from to create my character. So I think it's done. Yep. So we've got Saito from Inception, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got Harvey from Suits, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we've got Edward Lewis from Pretty Woman, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, cool. So so in real world scenario, you would review this.
Yeah.
And then if, for example, if there's anything in there that you say, oh, maybe could you do a bit better? You would just give a prompt to say, for the Harvey from the Suits, for example, can you give me another iteration of this, for example?
Yeah, definitely. I literally had an example of that last night when I was like preparing for this session. So when I did this example yesterday, it came out fine. Like I read through everything and it was fine. All the characters were right. But I also was creating another character, and a couple of the reference points that I choose from, they got the character wrong. So like I would read the description and it didn't match with the name of the character. So I don't know if you've watched the film Coach Carter, Carter with Samuel L. Jackson. So there's a character in there, but it's not a primary character, but she's quite prominent in the scenes that she shows up in. So Octavia Spencer's the actress, and she plays the mother of one of the basketball players. So the basketball player's Junior Battle, really tall guy. And he takes a lot of the shots on in the basketball games. And his mom is called Willa Battle or Mrs. Battle. So she was one of the reference points I wanted for another character. But when I used chat the first time, it gave me the character description of the Principal Garrison, with the name of Willa Battle. So you have to know your references, because you read the description for Willa Battle and say, this is not right. This is not the mother of Junior Battle. Like I remember iconic scenes when she turns up to the store and she's saying, look, Coach Carter, I want my son to play for you. But I just need you to understand that this is what he's been going through in his life, and things have been really challenging. So as I'm reading the character that chat has given me, I'm like, you've got this wrong. So I would say to chat, this is wrong. The profile you've given me is for Principal Garrison. I need the one for Willa Battle, who is the mother of Junior Battle, who is a player on Coach Carter's team. So this is what I mean by interrogating and scrutinizing and examining what you're given. Don't just take everything as fact, because AI can be wrong as well. So
cool. So now we've got the I would say like call it the baseline for the character. So what would you do next to now get this character to the next level?
Right. So what I would now do is introduce a prompt that allows me to create a character that draws from all 3 of these. So this is where I'm like, create a full character profile for a middle-aged East Asian male living in the UK. So that gives me cultural background, that gives me location, that gives me age. I haven't put name, I haven't put a specific country. I'm almost letting chat inspire me. But then I've also put a line to say who is a combination of the 3 characters that were previously used. So this is now where you're drawing on bias, or you're drawing on from previous chat. And then I said include descriptions and a development plan. And then I've even specified, say I've got a number of characters that have the initials TN. I don't want this character to be another one that has the initials TN. So you can even say avoid this or go for this. So let's hit enter and see what it comes up with.
Jeez. Wow.
So it's literally describing personality, appearance, background, education, career, then how this character will develop in whatever story that you're writing.
So it's basically taking the persona, because working in IT, when we do the personas for users and for like future state of when software is going to be rolled out, we have to do personas like this. But then this level of detail is something that we probably don't go into. So we would say, for example, so and so is from this background, this is their pain points, blah blah blah. But this obviously goes so much further. But then I guess if you're doing this by hand without chat, would a normal writer go to this level of detail for a character?
That's interesting. Like, I feel like every writer will have their own process. And I feel like what I've been learning in my fictional writing journey is that it's so powerful to make the character real to you. Because for me, my process requires me to speak about the characters like they are real people. So I want to know their fears. I want to know their daily thoughts and their daily routines. I want to know what they're aiming for. I want to know their challenges, their struggles. I want to know what they've celebrated recently. When is their birthday? Like, when is their anniversary? Like, what are their belief systems? What are their morals and their ethics? What do they stand on? What job do they do? What job do they not want to do? You know, like, as if I know them, like a friend or a family member or an associate or a colleague. And so that requires you to know their height. How do they feel when they stand next to you, or when you're sat in a restaurant, or when you go to the cinemas? How do they drive? Do they have road rage, or are they really slow driving? You know, actually,
no, it's really good, yeah.
People, that creates the layers, that creates the texture, that makes the story relatable, because it's like, I see myself in this person. How do they respond during conflict? How do they respond to praise? Like, are they someone that is shy, embarrassed? Are they someone that is egotistical? Is it like, don't be afraid to
go
the full kind of sphere of your character.
So then you would now take this on. So now you've got obviously the background of the character. Now you've got a persona, which chat has done based on your prompts. You'd obviously review it and say tick box, not tick box, and then go from there. And then what is the next stage? Because I'm just looking at the time. What would be the next phase of this character?
Well, the thing about characters is you need relationships. So the thing is, the prompt I used here is I didn't put in an occupation, but because I know what story I'm writing, I already have an occupation in mind. So what I would do is,
because it's given one, isn't it? Would you say
one? A senior partner at a prestigious law firm. But when I've done this same process before, and this is the thing about chat, it will give you a different thing. So if I did this and then you did this and then Ade did this, even with the same 3 characters to triangulate from, your results could be different, because I've had different names, different ages. I've also had different occupations. So this one's a law firm, but say I already knew the occupation I wanted them to have because of the story that I'm writing. Because I'm writing a fictional series, I know this character's like in my 7th, 8th book. So by then there's already a story in place. What I would do in the prompt, so after I've got the 3 characters that I'm drawing from, in this, I would specify. So you can choose what to specify and what not to specify. So I would have specified, consider that the occupation would be this. And so then it will write the character development based on the occupation. So you asked me where I would go from here. I would go into relationships. So if the relationships weren't already created, so there's some here, we've got a charity worker, so maybe a colleague, got a younger sister and a junior associate. I would then just ask chat, does Kenji have a wife, or is Kenji married? Is Kenji married? So it's like, tell me. Oh, it hasn't. You see, now it's just giving me what I've already.
Single.
Same thing. So let me see if I can. Let me try this. Create. I try and be polite. Please create a character profile for Kenji's wife, and let's see what it does. See, so we've now got a wife.
Right. Yep.
So then now you've got a partner, or you could call it a secondary or supportive character. You can then design what's their home life like. What is their relationship dynamics? Where did they meet? How do they know each other? What secrets are they keeping from each other? Or how do they navigate evening routines? Do they eat dinner together? Do they work different schedules? What cars do they drive? Where do they live? You know, what does their home environment look like? Do they have any children? If they have any children, What does that look? How many children do they have? How old are they? Where do they go to school? Are they in school, or are they in their careers, or do they stay at home? Do they have any pets? So then you're literally just going from one character to multiple characters. It's like, drive to work. Who do they pass? Who do they speak to? If Kenji's a part of a law firm, I think you can create rivalries. Which colleagues does he not like? Which colleagues does he like? And then as you create the different characters, you're creating the storylines based on those different personalities coming together in a shared.
And then I guess the key point is, once you keep all this narrative in the one single chat, then every time you're adding all these different dynamics, eventually you could say, and I don't know if you would do this, but I would now say, okay, so I want to now do the introduction to the book. And then how would you introduce Kenji into this story? And then the story is about this, and this, and then and it now has like a part essentially ready to go, isn't it? Because it's giving you everything you need.
Yeah, but there's also like, okay, so I've created the characters. I still need to know what genre of book am I writing? Is it mystery? Is it
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, is it romance? Is it fantasy? Like, does the world even exist? Like, not like being fiction or non-fiction, but do I need to consider a different language? Do I need to consider a different way of engaging? Are they human beings or are they robots? Like, what does it actually look like? So you have to also create the world in which you want the character to show up in and have a story or journey in. So then
here's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with this chat that you have now, say now you've got a chat for different characters, is there a way that you can now refer to other chats to now link it in?
I think you can cross chat. However, this is where my investment in chat has been needed, so that I can then create a document to pull everything that I want, and then I can upload the document to a chat that have previously come from different chats and consolidate the information into one space. So that's what I've done because I'm writing a fictional series, I'm almost thinking about different main characters all at the same time. And so I've got my main character for the first book, and I've got my main character for the third book, because my main character changes with each book in the series. And I can bring both of those character profiles into the same Word doc, for example, or Google Doc. And then I can upload it and say, I don't know, create 5 instances when these two characters cross paths, for example, and then it can do that then. Right.
So I feel like we could talk about this forever, and I would like to go much, much further, but just because of the time. But I think this has been really insightful and really great for the people that are watching, just to now, because I think it's not, yes, your context and your paradigm is about the book, but actually when people are creating anything and using chat for anything, in order for their prompts to be improved, there's just things that you need to consider outside of just a standard one-liner that can now give you a much more robust response. Even I personally have taken it that when I'm actually using it to help me with my slide decks and different things that I produce, actually there's a way that I can do it which actually now will make it even broader, but actually speak to the individuals in the room based on the interactions and the prior knowledge you have. Because if you imagine you go to a boardroom setting, you say I want to create a slide deck about this information and I want it to be in this way, but it doesn't, I never would think to even say, oh, but don't forget that so-and-so's in the room, he's dyslexic, so therefore be very clear about not too many words, more pictures or etc. Or so-and-so likes the details, so don't forget they're in the room. And then you can create these personas and put it in. So when it now gives you your talking points, you can now make sure that you speak to all of the people that are actually in the room. Thanks very much. You made my life so much easier.
That's what it is. That's how I see it. It's like it's the genesis is still from you, the individual, but it's still but what AI helps you to do is to compute all that and consider very contrasting factors all at one time without you having to do all that work internally. Because I know I'm someone who can become very overwhelmed with my ideas. That helps it takes the overwhelm away from me because it does the computing for me. So it allows me to have capacity left, energy left to actually still create. So then I'm not concerned about how many ideas I come up with, because I now no longer need to be on my own to bring them all together.
Excellent. So how can people get in contact with you based on the stuff that you do? How can they find you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a really good place to connect with me. I'm also very responsive on Instagram, but it depends on what platforms you use. You have my website, which is just my name.com, so oliviadhines.com. So you can connect with me there. And also I have like a separate webpage for the world that I'm creating. So the fictional stories that I'm writing. So you're welcome to pop me a message, pop me a line, and then I can share that with you as well, because I've written that under a different pen name. So I'm not using Olivia D. Hines for that, because it allows me to separate my fiction from my nonfiction. But yeah, LinkedIn is always the best way, always the best way.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thanks for everyone for locking in. Any questions, feel free to add it in the chat, but we will definitely see you next week. And yeah, it's been a pleasure having you, Olivia, and we can't wait to hear about the great things you're about to produce.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation.